Welcome to Let's Talk with Dr. Robin. In this podcast, topics will be discussed that promote the daily management of life. While this information is meant to supplement your journey towards healthy emotional well-being, it is not intended to take the place of seeing a licensed mental health professional. I am Dr. Robin C. Wiley, a licensed clinical social worker with a private therapy practice in New Jersey. Thank you for joining today's conversation. Hey, everybody. Good afternoon, because we're doing an afternoon show. I had to remember that. Welcome to Let's Talk with Dr. Robin. I am Dr. Robin, and we are back. Took some time, been busy, as everybody is. Yeah. And of course, joining me is my producer, Bryce. Hey, Bryce.
Hey, what's going on? How you doing?
I'm good. You know what I mean? I can't complain. I've got, I know everybody was like, I got a new look.
Loving it, though. It really is
Thanks.
dope, though. It's
Thank
like, you know what? It's like, and I hope you don't take a disrespect to this, but it's like, it's giving me like Anita Baker vibe.
And you know what's so funny? I knew you were about to say that.
Like I'm caught up in the rapture.
I knew you were about to say that because one of my god sister who is out in Texas, she said the same thing. She was like, "It's very Anita Baker," and I said, "You know what? I feel very, very privileged and honored to be for the comparison." Mm-hmm. But yes, sometimes you need something new, need something different.
Something different.
Shake it up a little bit.
Switch him up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Switch him up. I like that. So today I thought, because we're back on air, so I thought we would do like a check-in. Last year we did a show called The Importance of Checking In. And so we're going to kind of talk about that and just kind of catch up. You know what I mean? Bryce and I, we haven't gotten a chance to really catch up on things. And a lot's been going on, because if you think about since, we're in 2023, we're in it. Right. We're about to be into March in a couple of days.
Springtime.
Is it though? Is it really going to be almost springtime?
Last night didn't feel like spring. But
no. And today is a little springish.
It's a little springy.
Today is a little springy, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I know.
Because I think part of it is, we're in, I don't know what kind of weather we're in. We're in, it's like all the seasons.
It's not Indian summer. Is that? I always say, but I think that's probably.
No. Yeah, that's later on down the road. Yeah, we're in the Indian winter, maybe.
Okay.
I don't know if that's a complete, if that's a phrase, but yeah, I think we're in Indian winter. That's what we're in. But I thought we'd do a check-in. We're in, so we had, we got, into the new year, we have, February, which we're still in, which, is Black History Month. Mm-hmm. Which, let's just throw that out there. Black History 365. Not just 1 month. So,
I think it's just U.S. history.
Yeah. It's just history. It's history. It is. And, and we have a deep history rooted in a lot of things, trauma being one of them. And I think, we don't need to forget that, Right. And so what I am going to do, one of the things I've thought about is we're going to talk a little bit about how, because the next month that we're getting ready to go into, March, is like Women's History Month.
It is.
Right. And so one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot is how, and I think it applies to all Black folks, but women in particular, of that, the sort of how we have taken the trauma of our ancestors. And when I say ancestors, we don't have to go back that far.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because even after slavery, we still had, discrimination, all of that, Jim Crow, all that stuff. But how we've taken sort of strategies or coping strategies from those incidences that have happened, and we still act that way today.
Sure.
So, for instance, that ability to, how like a lot of times, people of color, Black folks will talk about, I don't have time to cry. I don't have time to feel. I don't have time to, because I got to just keep pushing on. Mm-hmm. And that pushing on mentality and how that kind of does us in when we don't take that time to.
Yeah, we don't take the time to process our feelings.
To process, or to even feel them, to even recognize what it is. Absolutely. Yeah, we feel like we got to be there for everybody. And I think women do that in particular. I'm not saying that men don't do it either, but I think women do it in a way, because they always like, they got to hold everybody down. They got to be there for everyone and that kind of thing.
Well, and I also think that women, women are, they're. I mean, and I think this is true. I mean, correct me. You'll check me if I'm not true. I'm sure you will. But I think that women tend to be more expressive of their emotion. So then when you don't see that, then it's easier to be, it's like a flag to say, okay, this is what's happening. This is what the role that particular woman has got into, where they just got to hold it down because they tend to be very expressive.
Right.
Whereas men.
Or how we categorize, gender. And this is, kind of like, gender norms or whatever.
Stuff
we think,
like that,
right. How we categorize it, as women being more emotional,
right.
More forthcoming, that kind of
just
thing.
more able to be expressed.
Right. Because,
express feelings.
Right. And because that's, to me, that comes from, because, women are encouraged to do that. Men are not,
and
that's part of, that's a part of the issue. So we'll leave that there because that'll be a whole nother show.
Another show. Right.
Yeah, that is another show because, and I'll say this and then I'll stop because, I can't miss the thought here. But the idea that, the way we're oriented to the world.
Sure.
Women are oriented to express those feelings,
absolutely.
to cry and that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And that starts from birth on up.
Absolutely.
So as we're men, it's about, little boys, toddler boys, whatever, don't cry, be a man, all that toxic masculinity that then when men grow up and women grow up, what's the first thing that women complain about?
Right.
He can't express his feelings.
He don't feel.
Right. He's not talking about his feelings. When we'll be the same women that's raising little boys to not do that.
It's a lot of confusion out here.
A lot of confusion. So, so just throwing that out there. But, it's something to think about. And, like I said, we'll talk about that.
Sure.
But the idea is, but looking at how, the trauma of our past, you know what I mean? And and many of us, we don't know fully our past.
No, true.
And that's also a part of our heritage, not having a full identity,
right?
And rather having your identity taken from you,
right?
Which is something that white people don't necessarily experience,
right? I think a lot of cultures don't necessarily. A lot of demographics don't. You're right. And I think sometimes it's we get a bad rap for trying to find out about our identity and our culture when we were just really just exploring. But sometimes that can come across as, it can come across as maybe uncomfortableness for others.
Right. Those hidden truths.
But we're just trying to explore.
Right. And to educate the next generations.
Absolutely.
Like the other thing, you know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times there are things that have happened in this country that, the younger generations, they don't know about.
They don't know.
And I mean, and so as we're back in the day, I know I learned a lot of my history from, my grandmother, who was very well versed in history and that kind of thing.
Right.
So I learned that through my conversations with her. I'm not sure. I guess that's not really happening these days. Doesn't happen a lot, right. I mean, there's a big that time frame of age in terms of how old a grandmother is versus how old a grandchild is.
Right.
Has lessened a lot.
Absolutely.
It's lessened.
Absolutely.
That gap has closed a lot.
Big time.
So but the idea is, certainly during, Black History Month, there's a lot of programming, a lot of different stuff that goes out. Every channel you look at is like, oh, the Black shows, you know what I mean? And that's all fine and good. Let's not forget though, let's not forget on March 1st, Black history still exists.
Right. It's still
you know
there.
What I mean? It's still there.
And the thing I think that a lot of people get they don't understand that history or anything, let's just say education, because that's really what it is, right? It's supposed to invoke an emotion.
Right. Oh, yeah, yeah.
So, but I think a lot of people, they don't want to feel uncomfortable when it becomes the Black history portion of American history.
Right.
They don't want to be uncomfortable.
Right.
And I think that's what stops the progress.
Right. And sometimes it's us. We're uncomfortable too. It's not just, so we can't just say it's other. It's white people, whomever. It's Black folks that become uncomfortable with talking about their own history.
I just don't understand it. It's supposed to evoke an emotion. it's supposed to,
yeah,
because it's
okay.
called history, and it's
okay.
Yeah. Just like, you have kids that learn about, something that was tragic, like 9/11. That, oh my God, that's tragic. That affected everybody, but you still learn about it. Right. People still go. Yeah. It's an emotion. Yeah.
But I think what happens is that there's sort of a, I guess, like a dissonance. Like people want to think that things that happened in the past, and I think that happens with because history can be on a macro level, or it can be like on a micro level, like the individual. But a lot of times with things that have happened historically, we want to forget about them, and we do want to act as though, well, it happened in the past, so we don't need to really think about it. But what we fail to recognize is that things that happened in the past can continue to affect us now. And they tend to, or they're still some of those same structures. And when you think about race and, and how we operate in this world, race is a big factor still in how things are done. There's structural racism, and we have marginalized groups. We have subordinate, that still exists. Right. There's still places and tables that there is no representation for people of color in general. And that's all that's real. So in order for us to eradicate those things, we have to acknowledge that they actually exist.
We have to. Yeah. It may be a little uncomfortable.
Right. It may be a little uncomfortable. But here's the thing. When you think about anything, it may be uncomfortable at first.
In life.
But in life, different things that we have to do, changes and that kind of stuff, is usually uncomfortable at first. But then the more you work at it, the more you kind of chip away at it, you get used to it, because it's something that you haven't done before. Right. You get more comfortable. Right. You become more at ease. Right. And then eventually it's no big thing.
I think that people, they just want to, like I was told something. It's the celebration. And when I think about that, it actually offended me that, when it comes to my particular history, you just want it to be celebratory. Mm-hmm. But I learn other cultures in history. I don't just learn celebratoriness. I learn a lot of...
Yeah, it's the good, the bad, the indifferent. It's all of it.
The GBI.
Yeah, it's all of it. It's all of it. You can't just learn one part of it.
It's just one part. Yeah. So it's like, well, why do you want to condition my mind to, when I think about Black history, just think about celebration?
The celebration. Because I think when you said it to me, I was like, well, what are we celebrating? I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of, as a people, we certainly have a lot of value, and we have put a lot of value into this country, into this world, and we continue to do that.
So I'll give you an example.
But you can't just focus on the good. That's just like when somebody's like, well, we just want to focus on the positives. We don't want to hear anything negative. Because to me, that's what that's saying.
That's exactly
we don't want to hear anything that's negative or that's happened or occurred. Because we want to let's sweep all that under the rug. Let's forget about all that. Right. And let's just focus on all the positive things.
We just want to learn about, the ladies that happened with Hidden Figures, right? Mm-hmm. But we don't want to talk about the Emmett Till story.
Well, and we don't want to talk about what those ladies went through.
We don't want to talk about that.
Because they still went through some stuff. I mean, it wasn't just like they still went through a lot to get to,
But we don't want to talk about some of the tragic stuff, though.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and we have to, because every other group does. Every other group talks about all of that stuff. Yeah, you got to talk about all of that. You got to talk about all that. We can't just make it feel, we're trying to make
it feel good.
Yeah, we can't just make it feel good for us.
But see, that's the condition.
Yeah.
The overarching.
Right. Like just
condition.
But that goes hand in hand with what I was just saying about that. Keep on pushing through. We just not going to acknowledge that anything's happening. Mm-hmm. We're just going to keep on and act like everything's fine and turn the other cheek and all that stuff. And meanwhile, the hurt and the pain
still exists.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of times it is uncomfortable for us to watch stories like Emmett Till and that kind of thing. You know what I mean? It is very uncomfortable.
Sure.
Because it's stirring something in us.
It's evoking.
And it should.
Emotion. It should.
Right.
It should be no difference. You know what? And when we, let's say that particular establishment chose to want to, display a Hidden Figures more than an Emmett Till, it made me kind of understand This is even going real. This is where I've been in my bag, because since we all checking in. You know,
checking in.
But we're watching, BMFs, the Powers, the Snowfalls. And I'm like, I'm watching it. And I'm like, why are we entertained by our own demise? And that's where it's like, we just still want to keep us being conditioned.
And to read into things, you know what I mean? To read into some of these storylines and that kind of thing. Right. And to see that people, however they are trying to, get theirs. Because a lot of times people are still trying to go after that quote unquote American dream. Sure. Because I like to say it's a facade. But anyway, trying to go after whatever that means.
Right.
And even in these stories, you know what I mean? Kind of vicariously, living through these people and that kind of stuff. Now, you did mention Snowfall, so this is like a sidebar because I just...
Oh, no.
So I hadn't watched...
my dude.
So I had not watched Snowfall. I mean, I had tried to watch it one time before and had not... I know. Don't look... Try not to judge me. Let's be patient with Dr. Robin here. Be patient with me. So, but I'm on it now. I'm on it. So I'm in season 1.
Okay.
I'm in season 2. Because what happened is I started watching it and then I don't know. I just couldn't get into it. I was doing other stuff or whatever.
It probably was that time and space.
Yeah. It just wasn't the time to watch it. Right. So then when I realized another season was coming, I was like, and don't get me wrong, it's been in my queue, like saved. DVR saved.
Right.
For the long haul.
Wow.
Okay. I got like 40 some odd episodes saved. Right. So I started watching it yesterday. And I've had family members, loved ones, everybody's like, look, you need to watch this. You need to, So I started watching, I'm on I'm on episode 3. Oh. And I'm in it. So this will be my show for the next couple weeks.
Oh yeah.
So I'm hoping to report soon that I'll be caught up.
It's a great show.
It's
entertainment.
But it also shows you a lot of what I've seen in the first 3 episodes is, some historical perspective because it's taking place, I think it's like 83 or something like that. Right. 80s. Back in in California. LA. Right. And it's showing you some things, about
the condition.
About different things that go.
Just go there.
And so I think that's when you look at these shows. Like I was watching, Narcos, and Narcos is another show that shows you all of this stuff that goes on a government level, a macro level.
Right.
You know what I mean? With the government and how different things are working underneath and how people try to get funding for different programs and what they do and how things are allowed.
Right.
How certain things have been allowed to happen until it gets out of control. And how when things plague certain social problems plague a certain area, a certain demographic, nobody's that concerned. Absolutely. But when it hits another type of demographic,
then it's different.
All of a sudden, we got a problem.
It's all part of the conditioning.
So I think just all those things that we have to be
and those shows
aware
again,
of.
I watch those shows. I watch them, but you know what? It's almost like a person that smokes a cigarette. Like, what I'm saying? The adult that smokes a cigarette knows that this cigarette is terrible, but you still smoke it. Yeah. It's like, it's terrible, but not that it's terrible, but because it's not so much terrible for me because I'm not looking at it like, oh my gosh, I could. But see, kids.
Right. Yeah. What's the influence of it? Yeah. What is the influence?
They're trying to aspire to be like them.
Right. Possibly.
And that's where.
Yeah. But I think, but it's also about the influences, you know what I mean? Who influences us versus who is influencing, our younger folks and that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
So we're checking in today. We're checking in on a few things. Right. And let me just say, so when you think about checking in, one of the things that I always think about is because the show that we did last year was about the importance of checking in. I think ever so often, you really have to kind of take a step back, look at how things are going for you. So it could be for you, it could be within your family, it could be for your relationships, whatever the case may be, but your job, whatever, there may be different areas you look at. Right. But it's important because when we don't do that, oftentimes we might be, first of all, that increases self-awareness.
Sure.
Your self-awareness and possibly could let you know about, okay, this is a situation I need to be working on. I'm not working on it yet, but I need to put some time in this because things can get away from us. We get busy, like we were talking about, busy can be good.
It's a good thing.
However, busy can also distract you from the other stuff that you need to be doing.
Big time.
That may not be necessarily related. So busy at work and then your personal life is suffering, or your personal life, you're busy and then work is suffering, whatever.
Right.
So we're going through life day to day, just living,
right.
And forgetting to really kind of ask, ourselves, how we doing?
How we doing?
How we doing? How are things working out?
Right.
Is everything okay?
Right.
Because here's the thing, we check on other people,
right.
or at least we should be.
Right.
But we'll check on other folks, but do we check on ourselves?
And that's where it's
we gotta check on ourselves.
Yeah, we do.
So I just kind of wanted to go through some various questions that we can ask ourselves. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so you start to I like to say you start with looking at the positive.
Okay.
What have you, and it could be, so this could be over, like if you think about now, we're going from the beginning of the year. So we're 2 months in, mm-hmm. Basically. So a lot of times people, you did New Year's resolutions. Mm-hmm. All that good stuff. So, you could.
Where are you?
Right. Where are you with those? You know what I mean? I don't do New Year's resolutions. I do intentions.
I got you.
I do it, and I try to do them based on my birthday because my birthday's in December. So I try to do them based on that versus the New Year.
Sure.
Because I just feel like the New Year thing, because people go all in. It's like all or nothing a lot of times when they set those. And we've talked about how to set goals and not going with this all or nothing type of thing. Sure. Like not saying like, I'm going to work out 7 days a week.
Right.
Because the minute the moment you miss a day, you're going to feel like it's a failure because you set the goal at 100%. Mm-hmm. So we have to think about those things. But you want to start with the positive. So like what things have happened? What things have been going on in the past few weeks? What things are you taking into the new year that have been positive for you? What things are working? Give yourself some credit,
right.
For what you've been accomplishing.
Right.
And also another part of this is looking at what you're grateful for.
Right.
Gratefulness is such an underutilized coping strategy.
Sure.
It's hard to be sad and down in the dumps when you are practicing gratefulness,
right.
And practicing being thankful.
Right.
Being thankful for, and it doesn't have to be like something big. It could be, I'm thankful that I'm able, some of the stuff like, we think about, I had, just a couple family members, in the hospital and that kind of thing. And, just checking on them and stuff like that. And, and I had to think about being thankful for the ability to be able to go check on them, to have a vehicle that's running, to have the funds, to have, to have the means to be able to do that.
Right.
Everybody doesn't have that.
Sure enough.
So that thankfulness can be, and that gratefulness can be about those smaller things that we sometimes often, take for granted.
It's like, and shout out to my man, AAA. He does like a fire cast for the school mm-hmm. I work at. And somebody be having these questions of the day. And the question of the day is like, what is the thing that you appreciate the most or something like that?
Right.
Or, and my answer was air.
Yeah. Right, because sometimes
without it,
like basic needs, you know what I mean, water, shelter, all that kind of stuff. The things that we, like I said, take for granted. Don't think it's significant until you somewhere and you don't have it.
Right, and that's what matters.
Like, have you ever been somewhere hot? Is a good. You ever been somewhere hot?
Uh-huh.
Like as hot as I don't know what, and you don't have any water?
Upsetting.
You think you about to die.
Yes.
You're not.
Yeah.
But you think you're about to.
It sure enough feels like.
I was at an event last year. We're not going to talk about where it was at.
Sure.
It wasn't here in New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
And I was at a sporting event. And they had run out of water. Because they wouldn't let us bring water in with us. So you had to buy it, but they ran out of water. Sure. And we were in line, standing. I'm just thinking, get a bottle of water, I'll be good, whatever. They ran out of water. Immediately, my mouth got dry, throat got dry. I felt like I was about to pass. I mean, I knew I wasn't, but because I don't do soda and that kind of stuff, but they ran out of, and I was like, how do you run out of water?
You start panicking.
Yeah, you start panicking. Yeah, you do. You start panicking a little bit. You start thinking like, I'm not going to make it. Right. Oh, goodness. So yeah, fortunately I had a mint. There it is. Fortunately I had a mint, so I was able to survive based on a couple of mints.
Yeah.
But things like that, but just, that gratefulness. The other thing is thinking about, so next we get into kind of where you want to look at, all right, what are some things that may not have worked out so well? Like what are some events or some things that didn't quite work out the way you wanted them to, or you would like to be different in your life? Like what are some things that you're like, I've been noticing I've been doing this, or it could be about a behavior. It could be about, a lot of times it is about action.
Right.
Some type of behavior that we're exhibiting, or some type of, whether you want to say still a behavior, but a coping strategy or something that you're doing that may not be working for you.
Right.
And so you want to kind of look at that. And remember to focus on yourself. not others. Because a lot of times, we're focused, well, this person does this, that. Let's focus on what we do, not what somebody else does.
Right.
Because we can only change us. You can't change somebody. You can let somebody know how what they do affects you. Right. But ultimately, people change because they want to change, not because you want them to change or because you're telling them to change.
Right.
And I know a lot of times that's a struggle for a lot of people. That's a struggle for a lot of us with control issues because we want to feel like, I need you to do X, Y, and Z. And a lot of times people are not there. They're not there to want to change those behaviors. So this is about you, your behaviors, your actions, your responses. So sometimes we realize there's some things we need to do. We need to take a look at what really needs to be done to make those changes and then put that into action. Small steps, not big steps. You know what I mean? I always say the smaller the step, the more successful. And when you start to see the success, you'll build upon that success.
True indeed.
Okay, you'll build upon that.
True indeed.
So, and let's not try to change everything at once. Let's not try to, when you're checking in with yourself, oftentimes we can get into this, I guess, going down the rabbit hole of everything that we feel is wrong. Oh, I don't do this and I say this wrong and I don't do that. And I don't, that's not really fair to yourself because everybody makes mistakes. Nobody does anything in a perfect way, nor should we be. We're human. Right. There's not a person on this earth that is perfect.
Right.
Now, there are some people that may think they are.
But we got to have that.
But they are not.
We got to have that grace for the mistakes and the flaws that we have.
And the lessons. Remember, the lessons from the mistakes, because there are lessons from those mistakes. Right. If we choose to pay attention.
Right. You can't stay there.
Right. You can't stay there. No, you can't let it just kind of dictate your whole life and everything else. So the next thing is once we choose something that we're like, all right, you know what? Checked in with myself. This is something that's not going well for me. I need to kind of work on this. You kind of put in place what are the smaller things that you can do. And then you want to try to look at what's your motivation to change that. Because that's the thing. And don't get me wrong, motivation is oversold. It is. Right. Everything becomes about motivation. However, motivation, if you break it down, it's you do want to look at whether you have a high motivation, whether you have low motivation.
Right.
What are the consequences for continuing? Because that's really what helps. What are the consequences for continuing the behavior?
Right.
Or whatever it is you're doing? And what are the consequences if you change? And oftentimes you want to look at, is it better if you change it? Or would there be any change at all? Right. Would there be any change in the consequences? And what would influence that? So a lot of times, it's our interaction with other people, or maybe it could be something like how we manage our money, that type of thing. Right. Whatever it is, you want to take a look at all of that.
Right.
And what is possible for you to do next? Like, what's your next step? What is some small thing that you could do now that would probably cause a domino effect that would allow you to then see a difference? So I'll give an example, because a lot of times, a lot of times we're not really taught how to manage money. Mm-mm. You know what I mean? A lot of times we just, that's not something that everybody's sitting down and having a conversation about how to manage money, how to save, whatever the case may be.
The financial literacy.
Yeah. And even in schools, like I think some schools, they may have a course on it in high school. I feel like it needs to be done like probably elementary.
It should be
part of the math class.
I know in New Jersey, it's a graduation requirement.
Right. So, but you think about it. When you think about mindset,
right.
If you want somebody to, and I'm not saying that but just like with a lot of things, high school,
right.
That's a little late in the game. You trying to get somebody to change them, that's a little late.
It's, what I heard a statement said by, it was actually a pastor, T.D. Jakes, and he talked about how he could cook. And he was cooking really well, but he cooked and, he just cooked with flavor, right? And he learned how to season and make the meat tender and flavorful. Mm-hmm. But he said this next level was learning how to season to the bone.
Oh, okay.
So there's a difference between
and
just cooking and it's good.
And the application and a little bit deeper, right?
A little deeper.
So so when you think about a literacy course, and this is, of course, my opinion.
I agree though.
As I like to give it, is if we're trying to really help young people or different generations to start to approach finances differently, then we probably need to do bit smaller steps throughout their academic career, especially elementary school, middle school.
Absolutely.
Because when do kids start spending money?
Thank you.
Right.
Early. When we start giving them gift cards.
Exactly. We're not waiting until you're not waiting until you're a teenager to start spending money. You're getting money and spending money. And I'm not saying that shouldn't, because of course, it should be taught at home too. Sure. But a lot of times, it's generational where people don't know necessarily how to do, or they don't have the means to be able to save. So they don't think saving.
Right.
When you have limited resources, limited access, you're not saving because you don't have anything to save.
Right.
So that's the reality. So I'm using that as an example because for many of us, many people, it's about, you want to, at some point in your life, you want to get into a different category financially. You want to manage your money. You want to know where your money is going.
Right.
You want to be able to do some additional things that may require saving. So I use that as an example of maybe that's something that you feel like you need to change. So being that that's something that you choose, you want to choose a small behavior, a small part of that, a smaller goal that will lead you to the bigger. So it might be by first writing down all your bills. That could be it. Or writing down, your bills versus what you got coming in. A lot of people don't do that.
Right.
So that can be an action. That can be a small step that will then at least give you some awareness, because checking in gives you awareness. It's forcing you to take a look at yourself. It's like looking in the mirror and saying, hey, you know what? All right, this is what looks good. This is what's not.
Yeah.
Because nobody goes out. You don't leave the house without looking in the mirror.
Right.
You don't put your clothes on and do all that without looking in the mirror.
Right, no, true.
Because you want to know what you're working with.
Right. I know what's going on.
So that's the way we need to do in areas of our life too. You have to take a look at it to know what's actually going on.
Right.
And it's important. It's important. So again, checking in with ourselves, creates that self-awareness to create change within ourselves, which is necessary for us to have continued growth. So it's not like, I checked in when I was 30. So I'm good. You got it's periodically. You got to periodically check in.
Yeah, and finding someone that you can process that with. You
may need to process it because sometimes it's deeper stuff. Like I'm using some light stuff here, but sometimes it's deeper things. It's things that we may do or that somebody's brought to our attention that we do that we recognize that, I might need to do that a little different.
Yeah, check in.
It's like for me, so for Dr. Rob, my constant check-in.
Okay.
Constant check-in is on procrastination. Because I am I could be like the president of the procrastination club.
Same.
I could. And I've gotten better. I've gotten a lot better than I used to be, because what happens is procrastination for me has been reinforced.
Got you.
So like when I was in college, I could procrastinate. Now, not my doctoral program, not
right.
But prior to that, bachelor's and master's degree, I could procrastinate, knock that paper out, whatever, and still making A's. I was good. So there was no reason for me to not procrastinate because it always worked out. Now, was there stress associated with procrastination? Absolutely. Stress and sleepless nights and all that. So you come into what, almost 20, I don't even want to say it, almost 20 years later, getting a doctorate. Yeah, you can't procrastinate in a doctoral program. Right. No, you can't. No.
Right.
No, there's a different level of expectation.
Absolutely.
And also too, being older, I can't do that all night thing. I can't stay up all night, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay that I can't.
Because once I can't.
Now there are people that can, because I think that's for me getting older. Right. That's not everybody. Right. Some people, they're night owls, and I have good friends of mine that can stay up all night. For me, no, that wasn't working, and it's not something I want to do. Plus, I recognize that I don't want the stress that's associated with waiting to the last minute to do something when I could have avoided that. So for me, my check-in is on, how am I getting stuff done?
Sure.
Are the systems that I have in place to get things done in a timely fashion, are they working for me?
Sure.
I checking on, because to me, I think, I acknowledge I'm a procrastinator. I'm not, I don't think I'll ever completely eradicate being a procrastinator.
Right.
So I embrace it because I think that's part of just who I am.
Sure.
However, I realize that it doesn't always suit me in every situation.
Sure. Right.
And so I try to recognize. So that's where my check-in comes in. It's like, so what do you need to do differently?
Right.
And how do you go about that? And then I take those smaller steps.
Okay.
All right.
Works for me.
So that's where we are today. All right. I hope we will be back. We'll be back soon. You know what I mean? I ain't making no promises. Okay. But we will be back soon with another show. Until then, be well, be great, and be you.